Premiere is going super slow. Why is it lagging? Well, here are some common causes why Premiere could be running slowly on you and some general guidelines about how to fix them. I'm Andrew, this is Mileshko, and we're on a mission to be the most enjoyable production team to work with in Atlanta. Let's do this. An extremely common bottleneck for Premiere is working with file types that are meant for delivery and not for editing. The most common of these file types that can gum up your workflow is H.264 footage. If Premiere is chugging hard on you and you're working with H.264 footage, or MKV footage, or HEVC footage for that matter, try transcoding your footage through Adobe Media Encoder or Shutter Encoder to Apple ProRes 422. ProRes is a fancy file type called an intermediate or a mezzanine codec, depending on what part of the world that you're in, which basically means that it's designed to be edited with. Premiere loves the stuff. ProRes files will definitely fill up your hard drive quicker, but you will be shocked how many times that transcoding your footage to ProRes will fix laggy editing. This is somewhat connected to the last one, but if you recorded your footage on a phone or through a screen recording software like OBS and your settings weren't set right, watch out for something called variable frame rate, or VFR. Basically, VFR footage kinda sorta stays around the frame rate that you want it to, but not really, and it freaks Premiere out. To see if your footage is VFR, bring it into Premiere, right-click on the footage, and select Properties. In the little pop-up that pops up, if you see the words variable frame rate detected, then that's VFR, my friend. Your best option, transcode your media through Shutter Encoder to Apple ProRes 422 at the frame rate that you want, and you may very well fix your lagging problem. A common misconception when it comes to video editing and computer hardware is that your graphics card is king. In Premiere, that's not the case. Now, while a good graphics card definitely helps, it's your processor and your memory that share that crown. Adobe has some recommendations on your CPU and RAM inside Premiere, which I'll leave the link to that in the description below. But when you're planning an editing build, a great CPU and a lot of memory inside your system will go a long way to clearing up Premiere bottlenecks. And if expensive computer hardware isn't an option for you at the moment, which I completely understand, a pretty decent workaround solution to this is something called a proxy workflow, which means you're going to be using temporary low-res files while you edit for a bit until it's time to export. Just be sure to use ProRes proxies, not H.264. Don't do it. What kind of drive you are editing on matters. Now, admittedly, there is a lot of it depends when it comes to this, but as a general rule, if you're editing on something less than a solid state drive, an SSD, you should probably consider upgrading. There are some fast hard disk drives that are out there, HDDs, but especially if you're working with 4K footage or anything with a frame rate more than 30 FPS, an SSD or an M.2 drive is a great way to keep Premiere from chugging. If you're not familiar with what a cache is, it's a spot that Premiere and After Effects uses to create a bunch of miscellaneous files that it needs while you are editing. These programs are constantly writing and creating new temporary files all the time while you edit to whatever location that you tell it to. But if that location is on the same drive as the media that you're editing with, you're trying to cram 2 lanes of traffic into one. Your best solution? Make another lane. It's highly recommended that you have a dedicated drive on your computer just for your cache, and then tell Premiere to use that location as your cache. This way, your media is being stored on one drive and your cache is set to another. 2 lanes. Internal drives are best for this, but even a dedicated external hard drive, for example, if you are editing off of a laptop or you don't have a dedicated internal drive, can be the difference between Premiere Pro lagging hard or running really smoothly. This one isn't quite as common, but it is worth noting. You can be using a super fast computer with a super fast drive with super fast media. And if you're using a cable that can't push data through fast enough, none of that matters. For example, if you're editing massive footage that has high frame rates to it, but your cable that you're using isn't rated for that kind of footage, it's like trying to cram an entire pizza into your mouth at one time. It's gonna get messy. But your best solution? Clearly it's to make your mouth bigger so that you can fit more pizza in. And you laugh, but there's an element of truth to this. As a general rule, if you're currently editing on a drive that's using USB 2, upgrade. Or if you are editing on an external drive, try an internal one, as those connections tend to be super fast. Essentially, try upgrading your cabling or moving your media to a drive with a faster connection, and you may see Premiere speed up. You may just be asking Premiere to do too much. Noise removal, warp stabilization, lots and lots and lots of layers, and those Sapphire plugins that you definitely got through legitimate means will almost certainly require timeline rendering even on the beefiest of editing machines. Just remember, it's not how many tools you use, it's how you use the tools. And those are some common reasons why Premiere could be lagging on you. Be sure to subscribe to Mileshko for more editing tips like this, and check out our other videos as we aim to be the most enjoyable production team to work with in Atlanta. See ya.